Welcome to Deep Work Daily. Let's tackle the unseen productivity killer impacting you right now.
Hi, everyone. Before we jump in, a quick heads up that while we're discussing productivity and mental focus, this isn't medical or mental health advice, so definitely consult a professional for your specific needs.
That's a great point. Today, Lisa and I are going to talk about something incredibly important, especially in our modern, always-on world. We're talking about what's really happening with our productivity and why we often feel busy but not actually accomplished.
Exactly. We're digging into why we feel like we're spinning our wheels.
We live in an era brimming with constant notifications, endless emails, and a never-ending stream of information. This deluge creates a powerful, often unseen enemy to our true productivity. This enemy is shallow work.
Shallow work. That sounds not great. Can you tell us more about what that actually means? Because I think a lot of us might relate to feeling like we're doing a lot, but not making much real progress.
Absolutely. Shallow work refers to tasks that are easy to do, often logistical in nature, and that tend to pile up. Think about responding to most emails, attending many meetings where your input isn't critical, or constantly checking social media. These tasks often feel urgent, but rarely contribute to your most important goals. They're the busy work that fills our days.
So, it's the stuff that feels like work, but isn't really moving the needle on the big, important projects, right? It's like constantly tidying up your desk instead of actually writing that important report.
That's a perfect analogy, Lisa. And the insidious thing about shallow work is that it can easily camouflage itself as productivity. We check off dozens of emails, attend back-to-back meetings, and feel exhausted by the end of the day. But when we step back and ask, what meaningful progress did I make on my most critical objective? The answer is often disappointing.
And I imagine this has consequences, right? Beyond just feeling like we're not accomplishing enough.
Oh, the consequences are significant. When our days are dominated by shallow work, we drastically reduce our capacity for what we call deep work. Deep work is the ability to focus without distraction on a demanding task. It's in these deep work sessions that we produce our best results, improve our skills, and truly innovate. So, by succumbing to shallow work, we're essentially sacrificing our ability to do the very things that lead to significant achievement and professional fulfillment.
So, deep work is where the magic happens, where we get our best ideas and do our most impactful work. And shallow work is the thief that steals the time and mental energy needed for that deep work.
Precisely. And the cost of this trade-off is enormous. We see a decline in the quality of our output, an increase in stress and burnout, and a general feeling of being stuck or unfulfilled in our careers. We're spending our precious mental resources on tasks that don't require much thought, leaving little for the challenging, rewarding work that actually matters.
It makes sense. If my brain is constantly switching gears to deal with minor interruptions or low-level tasks, it's not going to be in the right state for complex problem solving or creative thinking when I finally have a moment.
Exactly. Our attention is a finite resource. Every time we switch our focus from a demanding task to respond to a notification, we incur a cognitive cost. This switching back and forth erodes our ability to concentrate deeply. Over time, this constant interruption trains our brains to expect distraction, making sustained focus even more challenging. We become masters of scattered attention, but novices at deep concentration.
So, this really is about shining a light on that unseen enemy, that constant drain on our focus and potential. It's about understanding that simply being busy isn't the same as being productive in a meaningful way.
You've got it. And the good news is, recognizing this problem is the first major step towards solving it. In Deep Work Daily, we're going to equip you with the strategies and mindset shifts needed to reclaim your focus, cut through the noise of shallow work, and cultivate a daily practice of deep, impactful work. We'll learn how to schedule those crucial deep work blocks, how to declutter your tasks, and how to create a focus-friendly environment.
It sounds like a game changer for anyone who feels overwhelmed by distractions and wants to achieve more of what truly matters to them. We're setting the foundation for a more focused, more productive, and ultimately more satisfying way of working.
That's the goal. We believe that by understanding and actively combating the productivity killer of shallow work, you can unlock a significantly higher level of achievement and personal satisfaction. We're going to learn how to engineer our days, not just react to them.
So, to recap for our listeners, today we've introduced the concept of shallow work, those undemanding, often logistical tasks. We've highlighted it as the primary unseen killer of our productivity because it directly competes with and erodes our capacity for deep work. Deep work, on the other hand, is that focused, undistracted effort on demanding tasks that leads to our most meaningful accomplishments and skill development. By understanding this dynamic, we can begin to take control.
Indeed, and that's our starting point. Next episode, your deep work blueprint, scheduling impactful blocks. Welcome back. Last time, we explored how even small distractions can chip away at our productivity. Now, let's tackle the core of deep work, scheduling impactful blocks.
Absolutely, Alex. Episode 1 really opened my eyes to the unseen productivity killer. It's one thing to understand what deep work is, but it's another to actually make it happen. That's where scheduling comes in, right?
Exactly, Lisa. It's not enough to want to do deep work. You have to actively make time for it. Think of it like making an important doctor's appointment. You wouldn't just hope it happens. You'd put it on your calendar. Deep work deserves the same commitment.
So, what's the first step to creating these impactful blocks? Is it just looking at our usual calendar and finding any free spot?
Not quite. The key is to be intentional. We need to identify when we are most effective for focused work. For many, this is often in the morning, when our minds are fresh and less burdened by the day's demands. This is your intellectual peak.
Oh, that makes sense. I've noticed I do my best creative thinking before lunch. So, the first step is understanding your personal rhythm.
Precisely. We all have natural cycles of high and low energy. Are you a morning lark who can dive into complex problems first thing? Or perhaps a night owl who hits their stride after dinner? Identifying these patterns is crucial for scheduling your most demanding tasks during your peak performance times. Don't try to schedule your most critical, focus-intensive work when you know you're typically drained.
And once we know our peak times, how do we actually block them out? It feels like my calendar is already so full of meetings and urgent requests.
This is where the blueprint aspect comes in. You need to physically carve out these time blocks. Many experts recommend starting small, perhaps with 1 or 2 90-minute blocks per day. 90 minutes is a good duration because it's long enough to get into a flow state, but not so long that it feels overwhelming.
90 minutes. So, imagine I've identified my morning as my peak time. I'd block out, say, 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. But then what happens? My inbox starts pinging, colleagues stop by. It's still so easy for that block to get hijacked.
That's the next critical step, protecting these blocks. This involves a few things. First, it's about communication. Let colleagues know that this is focus time. This might mean setting your status to do not disturb or even temporarily closing your office door.
So, it's like putting up a do not disturb sign, but for your entire workflow.
Exactly. And it's not just about external interruptions, but also about internal ones. Before your block begins, have a clear plan for what you intend to accomplish during that time. Vague goals like work on Project X are less effective than specific objectives like draft the introduction to the Q3 report. This clarity prevents you from wasting precious deep work minutes figuring out what to do next.
That's a great point. Having a laser focus on the task itself prevents distraction from creeping in. So, to recap this part, Identify your peak performance times, schedule dedicated blocks, and then actively protect those blocks from interruptions.
You've got it. And this protection extends to your digital environment too. For your deep work block, turn off email notifications, close unnecessary tabs on your browser, and silence your phone. The goal is to create an environment where your focus isn't constantly being pulled away.
It sounds like it requires discipline. What if I miss a block? Or it gets consistently interrupted? Should I just give up?
Absolutely not. Remember, this is a process of building a habit. Consistency is far more important than perfection. If you miss a block, don't beat yourself up. Just recommit to the next scheduled block. Think of it as training a muscle. Some days will be easier than others, but the consistent effort is what builds strength over time.
So, it's about resilience, picking yourself up and getting back to it. What about different types of deep work? Does the scheduling change for, say, creative writing versus data analysis?
That's a fantastic question, Lisa. For now, the principle remains the same. Understand your personal productivity rhythms and protect your time. You might find that creative tasks benefit from slightly longer, uninterrupted blocks, while analytical tasks might be well suited to shorter, more frequent focus sprints. The key is experimentation and tuning the blueprint to your specific needs.
So, the blueprint needs to be flexible, but the foundation of intention and protection remains. This is really actionable, Alex. It's not just theory, it's about practical steps to make deep work a reality.
And the beauty of scheduling these blocks is that it provides structure. Without structure, good intentions often dissolve. By making it a scheduled commitment, you're reinforcing its importance. You're telling yourself, and by extension, the world, that this focused time is non-negotiable.
It's like giving yourself permission to focus. And that permission is powerful. So, to wrap up this section, we've learned to identify our peak productivity times, schedule dedicated deep work blocks, aiming for around 90 minutes, and actively protect those time slots from distractions, both digital and human. We also need to remember that consistency and resilience are key, and the blueprint can be adapted.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. By consistently scheduling and protecting these focus periods, you're not just getting more done. You're getting higher quality work done, and you're building a habit that will serve you throughout your career.
Thanks for listening.
Welcome back. Last time, we covered your deep work blueprint. Today, we're tackling the art of decluttering.
That's right, Alex. It feels like there's always more to do than hours in the day, doesn't it? And so many of those things aren't truly important. They're just there. They're the constant drip, drip, drip that wears away at our focus.
Exactly. These are what we call shallow tasks. Think of them as busy work. They don't require much deep thinking, and they don't contribute significantly to your long-term goals. Examples might include sorting through a mountain of emails, endlessly scrolling through social media, attending meetings that could have been an email, or even just constantly checking notifications.
So, shallow tasks are the opposite of deep work. Deep work is about focused, uninterrupted concentration on cognitively demanding activities. Shallow tasks are the distractions, the time killers that make us feel busy, but don't move the needle forward.
Precisely. And the danger is that shallow tasks can easily fill up your entire day. They're often easier to start and finish, giving you a false sense of accomplishment. But at the end of the day, you've moved very little that truly matters. We need to become vigilant about identifying them, and then, just as importantly, eliminating or radically reducing them.
Okay, so how do we start identifying these shallow tasks? I suspect I have more than I realize.
A great way to start is by tracking your time for a week. Seriously, use a simple notebook or an app. Every time you switch to a different activity, jot down what you were doing and for how long. Be brutally honest. At the end of the week, review your log. You'll likely see patterns emerge. You might notice you're spending an hour each morning just sifting through emails, or perhaps you're jumping between different chat programs dozens of times a day.
That sounds a bit painful, but I can see how eye-opening it would be. So, once we've identified them, what's the next step? The description mentioned ruthlessly reducing. That sounds intense.
It can be, but it's necessary for true productivity. There are several strategies. The first is elimination. Can this task simply be removed from your to-do list altogether? Ask yourself, what is the absolute worst that would happen if I didn't do this? Often, the answer is not much.
That's a powerful question. I think we often do things out of habit or a vague sense of obligation, not because they're truly necessary.
Exactly. The second strategy is delegation. Is there someone else who can do this task, perhaps even better than you can? This could be a colleague, an assistant, or even a family member for household chores. It's about recognizing that your time is your most valuable asset. And if someone else could do a task for a lower cost, either in terms of money or your own limited focus, it's often worth it.
Delegation requires trust and clear communication, right? You have to make sure the task is understood and can be executed properly.
Absolutely. It's an investment, but the return in reclaimed focus time is immense. The third strategy is batching. For tasks that can't be eliminated or delegated, group similar shallow tasks together and do them all at once. This applies broadly. For example, instead of checking your email every 5 minutes, set aside specific times a few times a day to process your inbox. This prevents constant context switching.
So, batching means I might check emails at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m., rather than having my email open all day?
Precisely. You're giving your brain a break from that pull, allowing it to stay focused on deeper work for longer stretches. Another technique is automation. Can technology help you with this task? Many email filters, scheduling tools, or recurring payment systems can handle repetitive shallow tasks for you, freeing up your mental energy.
I hadn't thought about automation for shallow tasks specifically, but it makes perfect sense. Like setting up automatic bill payments, so you don't have to remember to do it each month.
Exactly. And finally, when tasks can't be eliminated, delegated, batched, or automated, we need to limit them. Set a strict time limit for how long you'll spend on a particular shallow task. For example, you might decide to spend no more than 15 minutes on social media per day. Once the timer goes off, you stop.
This whole concept of ruthlessly reducing shallow tasks feels like building a fortress around our deep work time. We're actively clearing the battlefield so we can concentrate on the important mission.
That's a great analogy, Lisa. It's about reclaiming control of your calendar and your attention. Think of your shallow tasks like weeds in a garden. If you let them grow unchecked, they'll choke out the beautiful flowers you want to cultivate. You have to be proactive and disciplined about pulling those weeds.
So, to recap for our listeners, first, identify your shallow tasks through time tracking. Second, apply strategies like elimination, delegation, batching, automation, and limitation to reduce them. The goal is to create significant blocks of time free from these distractions.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't about being lazy. It's about being strategic. It's about recognizing that your most valuable resource is your focused attention, and you need to protect it fiercely. By ruthlessly decluttering your task list, you are paving the way for truly impactful deep work.
It makes logical sense. If we're not spending so much time on the trivial, we'll naturally have more energy and time for the crucial.
By the end of this process, you'll find you're not just busier, but more productive and fulfilled. You're actually making progress on the things that matter most. Next episode, we'll explore crafting your focus sanctuary and designing effective rituals. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Last time, we discussed decluttering tasks and ruthlessly reducing shallow activities. Today, we're crafting your focus sanctuary by designing effective rituals.
Rituals. It sounds almost magical, doesn't it? Like we're setting up a special space just for our most important work.
Exactly, Lisa. Think of a ritual not as a chore, but as a powerful signal to your brain. It's like a clear announcement. Attention, brain. We are now entering the zone. Deep, focused work is about to begin. These consistent habits act as anchors, helping you transition smoothly from everyday life into concentrated flow.
So, it's about creating a bridge between distraction and focus. That makes a lot of sense. When you're bombarded with notifications and to-do lists, how do you mentally shift gears to tackle something complex?
That's precisely where our rituals come in. We'll explore three key areas: pre-work routines, environmental cues, and mental preparation. Let's start with pre-work routines. This is the sequence of actions you take before you even sit down to your deep work task.
Like a warm-up exercise for your brain?
You got it. This could be as simple as making a cup of your favorite tea or coffee. The aroma, the warmth, the act of preparing it. It's a physical step that signals the start of something different. Another element could be a quick 5-minute review of your goals for that specific deep work session. What exactly do you aim to achieve in this block of time?
So, not just sitting down and hoping for focus, but actively preparing for it. I can see how that would make a difference. If I know I've got a clear objective, I'm less likely to wander off mentally.
Precisely. Another powerful part of a pre-work ritual can be to completely shut down distractions. This means closing all unnecessary tabs on your computer, putting your phone on silent and out of sight, and perhaps even letting colleagues or family know you need uninterrupted time. This act of digital clearing is vital.
That digital clearing is so crucial. I find myself constantly fighting the urge to just quickly check something. If my ritual includes putting the phone away, that temptation is already lessened before I even start.
Absolutely. Now, let's move to environmental cues. These are the physical aspects of your workspace that, when present, reinforce the idea that it's time for deep work. This is about designing your space to naturally encourage focus.
Like having a dedicated desk?
A dedicated desk is a fantastic start, but goes deeper. For some, it might be dimming the lights and putting on instrumental music, something without lyrics that can pull your attention away. For others, it might be the scent of a particular candle or essential oil. The key is consistency. Your brain will begin to associate these sensory inputs with deep work.
So, if I always have a specific playlist on for my deep work, my brain will eventually hear that music and think, okay, time to focus.
Exactly. It's about creating a consistent, almost Pavlovian response. Another strong environmental cue can be lighting. Natural light is often best, but if you work indoors, consider a desk lamp that provides a focused beam of light. This can create a more concentrated atmosphere.
I never thought of lighting like that. It's always just been the ambient light in the room. But a focus light could really help delineate my workspace and signal that it's a zone for serious work.
You're catching on. And don't forget the simple act of physically preparing your space. Clearing your desk of clutter before you begin, having your water bottle ready, your notebook and pen at hand. These small steps remove friction and make it easier to dive straight into your task.
It's like setting the stage. You wouldn't put on a play without setting up the props and scenery, right? So, why would we expect ourselves to do deep work without preparing our environment?
A perfect analogy, Lisa. Now, the third and perhaps most subtle part of focus ritual is mental preparation. This is about getting your mind ready for the task ahead.
This sounds like the hardest part. How do you prepare your mind when it's already buzzing with thoughts?
It is subtle, but incredibly powerful. One technique is a brief moment of mindfulness or deep breathing. Just a minute or two of focusing on your breath can help clear your mental clutter. It's like taking a deep, cleansing breath before a plunge into cool water.
Okay, deep breaths. I can try that.
Another aspect is acknowledging any lingering distractions. If you're worried about an upcoming email or a nagging thought, take a moment to write it down on a separate piece of paper, labeling it later. This acknowledges the thought, but mentally parks it so it doesn't continue to intrude on your focus.
Oh, I like that. My brain often feels like it's holding on to every single thought, which makes it hard to let go. Writing it down on a later list, that could be a game changer.
It really can be. It's a way of saying to your brain, I hear you, and I will address this, but not right now. Finally, with mental preparation, it's about setting an intention. Clearly state to yourself, even silently, what your main objective is for this deep work period. This reinforces your commitment and adds a layer of purpose.
So, to recap, Alex, we're talking about creating a focus sanctuary through rituals. This involves three main components: pre-work routines, like preparing your drink and reviewing your goals, environmental cues, such as specific lighting or music, and mental preparation, like breathing exercises or jotting down distracting thoughts.
You got it perfectly, Lisa. These rituals are your personal signals to your brain, transforming the act of starting deep work from a struggle into a more natural, almost automatic transition. They build psychological anchors, making it easier and easier to access that state of undistracted productivity.
It's like building a habit muscle. The more you practice these rituals, the stronger that focus muscle becomes.
Exactly. And the beauty of rituals is that they are highly personal. What works for me might not work for you, and that's the exciting part of designing your own focus sanctuary. Experiment, find what resonates, and build a routine that signals to your brain it's time for deep work.
This has been super helpful, Alex. I can already feel myself thinking about how I can build a better pre-work ritual for myself.
Fantastic. That's exactly the spirit. Remember, consistent habits are the bedrock of sustained deep work. Next episode, we'll explore how to optimize your physical workspace to further enhance your focus. Welcome back. Last time, we explored crafting your focus sanctuary by designing effective rituals. Today, we're diving into engineering your personal productivity haven.
It's so true, Alex.
Our environment plays a massive role in how focused we can be. I'm excited to talk about making our physical spaces work for us, not against us.
Absolutely. Think of your workspace as the operating system for your deep work. If that system is cluttered, slow, or full of bugs, your productivity will suffer. We need to engineer a haven, a place that actively supports concentration.
So, where do we start with this engineering process? It sounds a bit daunting.
Let's break it down into a few key areas. First, the foundation, decluttering and organization. This goes beyond just tidying up. It's about creating a system. Remember our discussion on ruthlessly reducing shallow tasks? This is the physical manifestation of that principle.
Yes. Applying that to our desks and immediate surroundings. So, everything on the desk needs a purpose or needs to be put away.
Precisely. Imagine your desk as a canvas for your work. If it's covered in unrelated items, your brain will be constantly pulled in different directions. We want a clear surface with only the essentials at hand. This means having a designated place for everything and consistently putting things back. Think of it like a filing cabinet for your physical tasks.
That makes sense. A clear desk often leads to a clearer mind. What about the bigger picture, beyond just the desk itself?
Lighting is a huge factor. Natural light is ideal as it boosts mood and energy. If natural light is limited, consider task lighting that's bright enough to reduce eye strain, but not so harsh that it's distracting. And think about the overall ambient light. A warm, inviting light can be more conducive to focus than a sterile, overly bright one.
I've noticed a huge difference in my energy levels depending on the lighting. And what about sound? For some, complete silence is key, while others might prefer background noise.
That's a great point, Lisa. Sound management is critical for a productive haven. For those who need silence, noise-canceling headphones are an absolute game changer. They create a personal bubble of concentration. If you thrive with background sounds, consider ambient music without lyrics or white noise. The key is to find what minimizes distractions for you and creates an immersive focus zone.
So, it's about understanding your own sensory preferences and engineering the environment to meet them.
Exactly. Now let's talk about ergonomics. This is about comfort and sustainability. Ensure your chair supports good posture, your monitor is at eye level, and your keyboard and mouse are comfortably positioned. Investing in good ergonomics prevents physical discomfort from becoming a distraction, allowing you to maintain focus for longer periods.
I can relate to that.
When I'm fidgeting because my chair is uncomfortable or my arms are aching, my mind drifts away from the task at hand.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about the physical space, we can't forget the digital interface. Even if your physical desk is immaculate, a chaotic computer desktop or a flood of digital notifications can shatter your focus. Organize your digital files logically, close unnecessary tabs and applications, and manage your notification settings to allow for blocks of uninterrupted screen time.
That's a brilliant connection, Alex. The physical and digital spaces are interconnected. Optimizing one often requires optimizing the other.
There indeed. So, to recap our workspace optimization engineering, we start with a decluttered and organized physical space, ensuring only essential items are within reach. We then optimize our environment with proper lighting and sound management, catering to our individual needs. We ensure ergonomic comfort for sustained focus. And finally, we extend this optimization to our digital workspace, managing notifications and digital clutter.
It's about creating a physical and digital sanctuary that actively shields us from distractions and encourages deep, focused work. So, we're engineering this haven by controlling these key elements.
Precisely. And remember, this isn't a one-time setup. Periodically reassess your workspace. As your work evolves, or as you find new distractions cropping up, make adjustments. It's an ongoing process of refinement.
That's a great reminder. Our productivity haven needs to be a living, evolving space.
Indeed. Next episode, the digital detox, embracing digital sabbaticals. Welcome back. Last time, we dove into optimizing your physical workspace to create a haven for focus. Now, we're going to tackle something that often undermines all that hard work, our relationship with digital devices.
That's right, Alex. We're talking about the omnipresent glow of our screens, the constant ping of notifications. It's so easy to get pulled into the digital whirlwind. Today, we're exploring the concept of a digital detox and, more specifically, embracing digital sabbaticals.
A digital sabbatical. It sounds like a luxurious getaway, doesn't it? But it's less about lounging on a beach and more about consciously disconnecting. Think of it as a deliberate pause from the digital noise, a chance to recharge your attention spans and reclaim your focus.
And why is that so important, Alex? We use digital tools for so much of our lives, for work, for connecting with people, for learning. Isn't it counterproductive to step away from them?
That's a fantastic question, Lisa, and it's one many people grapple with. Here's the thing. While digital tools are powerful, they also demand a lot of our cognitive energy through constant context switching. Every notification, every alert pulls our attention away from what we were doing. Over time, this constant fragmentation erodes our ability to sustain deep focus. It's like constantly walking on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're not really covering any distance.
So, a digital sabbatical is like stepping off the treadmill for a while to actually rest and recover?
Exactly. A digital sabbatical is an intentional period where you significantly reduce or eliminate your engagement with digital devices and online services. It's not just about turning off notifications, it's about creating a conscious break. This break allows your brain to recover from the constant stimulation. It gives your mind space to wander, to connect ideas in new ways, and to simply be present without the immediate demand for a digital response.
I can see how that would help. When I spend a weekend with minimal phone use, I often find myself noticing more around me, having more present conversations, and even coming up with new ideas. It feels like my brain has room to breathe.
That's the magic of it. When you're not constantly reacting to external digital stimuli, your internal world has a chance to flourish. This can lead to profound benefits. For example, your ability to concentrate for extended periods can dramatically improve when you return. You might find you can tackle tasks that previously felt overwhelming with renewed vigor and clarity.
So, it's not just about getting away from the screen, but about what happens after you step away?
Precisely. The benefits extend beyond the sabbatical itself. When you return to your digital life, you often do so with a fresh perspective. You might be more discerning about which digital engagements are truly valuable and which are simply distractions. This can lead to a more intentional and productive use of technology moving forward. It's like clearing out a cluttered room. Once it's clean, you can see what truly belongs there and how to use the space effectively.
That really resonates. I often feel like I'm just reacting to my inbox or social media feeds. It's not an intentional way to spend my valuable time. So, how does one actually do a digital sabbatical? Are there different lengths or levels of intensity?
Absolutely. The beauty of a digital sabbatical is its flexibility. It doesn't have to be a month-long escape. It can be as short as a full day, a full weekend, or even a week. The key is that it's a significant enough chunk of time to allow for a real shift in your state of mind. For someone just starting, I'd recommend beginning with a full day. Commit to a Saturday, for instance, where you put your phone away, turn off your computer, and engage in analog activities.
Analog activities. What might those look like?
Think reading a physical book, taking a long walk in nature, journaling by hand, spending quality time with loved ones without phones present, engaging in a hobby like painting or playing an instrument, or even just sitting and reflecting. The goal is to fill that time with activities that engage your mind and senses without relying on a screen.
And what if your work involves a lot of screen time? How do you take a sabbatical then?
That's where intentionality and planning become crucial. For knowledge workers, a complete digital unplugging on a weekday might be unrealistic. However, you can still implement mini sabbaticals or what we might call deep focus zones. For example, block out 2 to 3 hours each day where you completely disconnect from email, messaging apps, and the internet, focusing solely on your most demanding tasks. You could also aim for one full digital-free day per week, perhaps a Friday or a Monday, where you prepare in advance for any necessary communication.
So, it's about finding what works for your life and your specific demands. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. And as you get more comfortable with these breaks, you can gradually extend them. A weekend digital detox can become a yearly week-long digital sabbatical. The important thing is to consistently practice these periods of unplugging. It's an investment in your focus, your creativity, and ultimately, your overall well-being. Think of it like sharpening a knife. You need to occasionally take it to the grindstone to keep it effective. A digital sabbatical is the grindstone for your attention.
That's a great analogy. It's easy to feel guilty about disconnecting, like we're falling behind or being unproductive. But framing it as a necessary step to increase future productivity and well-being is really helpful.
Indeed, it shifts the perspective from a deficit to an investment. And when you return from a digital sabbatical, you'll often find that your ability to engage in deep work is significantly enhanced. You'll have a clearer mind, a sharper focus, and a renewed appreciation for undistracted time. You'll be able to tackle those challenging tasks with more energy and less resistance.
So, to recap, A digital sabbatical is a deliberate pause from digital devices to allow your brain to rest and recharge. This unplugging period helps combat digital fatigue, improves your concentration, sparks creativity, and ultimately leads to more intentional and productive use of technology when you return. It can be a day, a weekend, or even longer, and it's about filling that time with analog activities.
Well said, Lisa. It's a powerful tool for anyone looking to deepen their focus and improve their productivity in our increasingly connected world. Next, let's talk about taming the communication beast by batching like a pro. Welcome back. Last time, we explored how to design your physical and digital spaces into a sanctuary of focus. Now, we're diving into something that can easily shatter that sanctuary: communication.
Communication. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? So essential for collaboration, but also a massive drain on our attention if we're not careful.
Exactly, Lisa. In today's world, we're bombarded. Emails, instant messages, notifications pinging constantly. Each one pulls us away from what we're trying to accomplish. This constant task switching, this shallow work of responding to every incoming message, is a major productivity killer.
It really is. You're deep in thought on a complex project, and then a little notification pops up. Before you know it, you're knee-deep in email replies, and what you were working on is totally forgotten.
Precisely. And the insidious thing is, we often feel like we have to be constantly available. This idea of always on communication is a myth that destroys focus. The goal today is to learn how to tame this communication beast. And a powerful strategy for that is something called batching.
Batching. So, instead of scattering our communication throughout the day, we group it together?
That's the core idea. Think of it like this. Imagine you have to go to the grocery store, the post office, and the dry cleaners. You can make 3 separate trips, one for each. That's a lot of driving, a lot of getting in and out of your car, a lot of context switching. Or you could plan a single trip that hits all 3 locations efficiently. That's batching.
That makes perfect sense. So, for communication, it means setting aside specific times to deal with emails, messages, and phone calls, rather than letting them interrupt us all day.
Yes. Let's start with email, a common culprit. Many people check their email every few minutes. This leads to constant interruptions and that feeling of being overwhelmed. A far more effective approach is to check and respond to emails only a few times a day. Perhaps once in the morning, once after lunch, and once before you finish your workday.
So, instead of having your email client open and visible all the time, you close it down and only open it for those dedicated times?
Exactly. And when you do open it, you commit to processing your inbox. This means not just reading, but actively deciding what to do with each email. Can you deal with it quickly? If so, do it. Does it require a longer response? Schedule time for that later or delegate it. Does it need to be filed? File it. The key is to move through your inbox with purpose during your designated batching times.
And what about instant messaging or team chat applications? Those notifications are almost irresistible.
They're designed to be. For those, you can employ a similar batching strategy. Instead of keeping the chat window open and visible, you can choose to 1. Disable desktop notifications for these apps, and 2. Check them at set intervals. Maybe every hour or every 2 hours, depending on your role and team communication norms.
So, you might set a reminder on your calendar to check Slack or Teams at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m.
That's a great way to implement it. And it's crucial to communicate this to your team. Let them know your communication hours. You can even set your status to focusing or deep work during your uninterrupted periods. This manages expectations and reduces the internal pressure to respond instantly.
That's a really important point, Alex. It's not just an individual strategy. It involves setting boundaries with others.
Absolutely. And this leads us to another key takeaway: protecting your most valuable time. Where you most productive and creative? For most people, it's during their deep work blocks. You don't want to fritter away that precious mental energy on shallow communication tasks. Batching ensures that your deep work time remains largely undisturbed.
Can you give us an example of how this practically changes a workday?
Certainly. Imagine a typical morning. Instead of opening your email at 8 a.m., then checking Slack at 8:15, then email again at 8:45, you might start your day with a 90-minute deep work session. Then, at 9:30 a.m., you dedicate 30 minutes to batching your emails, responding to urgent messages, and filing what you can. After that, you might have another deep work block, followed by checking your instant messages for 15 minutes at noon.
This approach feels less reactive and more in control. You're deciding when and how you engage with communication, rather than letting it dictate your day.
That's exactly what we're aiming for. And remember, this isn't about becoming inaccessible. It's about becoming intentional with your communication. It's about recognizing that constant availability can be a significant impediment to producing high-quality, focused work. When you batch your communication, you minimize context switching. Each time you switch tasks, your brain needs time to re-engage with the previous task, and that time adds up.
So, by grouping similar tasks together, you allow your brain to stay in a similar mode, which is much more efficient.
Precisely. You're creating predictable rhythms in your workday. You're saying, from 9:30 to 10, I am an email processor. From 10 to 11:30, I am a deep work thinker. This structure helps you achieve more. It also leads to a greater sense of accomplishment because you're actually moving important projects forward rather than just reacting to incoming requests.
It sounds like a fundamental shift in how we approach our workdays, moving from a constant state of busyness to one of focused effectiveness.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. To recap, batching communication involves dedicating specific blocks of time to process emails, instant messages, and other communication channels, rather than responding to them as they arrive. This minimizes disruptive context switching, preserves your deep work blocks, and ultimately leads to greater productivity and a stronger sense of control over your day. It's about being available when it serves your goals, not just when a notification pings.
So, the key is to be deliberate about when you communicate, to group those communications, and to let others know your focus times. It's a powerful way to tame the communication beast and protect our valuable deep work.
Next episode: the importance of tracking your focus hours and how this scorecard can motivate you to protect your deep work even further. Welcome back. Last time, we explored taming the communication beast by batching your emails and messages. Now that we've learned how to protect our time from constant interruptions, it's time to talk about how we actually know if we're succeeding. We're talking about tracking your deep work hours.
Tracking your deep work hours. That sounds analytical. I'm usually so focused on just doing the deep work that the thought of tracking it feels like another task. But I see your point, Alex. How do we know if our efforts to schedule and declutter are actually paying off if we don't measure them?
Exactly, Lisa. It's about understanding your own productivity patterns. Think of it like training for a marathon. You don't just run, you track your miles, your pace, your heart rate. That data helps you improve. Tracking your deep work hours does the same for your focused output. It provides concrete evidence of your progress or illuminates areas where you might be falling short.
So, the core idea is to quantify the time we spend in that intensely focused state. But what exactly counts as a deep work hour?
That's a great question, and it's crucial to define it for yourself. A deep work hour is a period where you're engaged in cognitively demanding tasks, completely free from distraction. We discussed this earlier. It's the kind of work that pushes your abilities and creates new value. So, not answering emails, not browsing social media, and not engaging in shallow logistical tasks. It's about activities that require your full concentration, like writing a complex report, coding a challenging feature, or strategizing a new project.
Got it.
So, it's about the quality and intensity of the focus, not just the amount of time spent at a desk. Now, how do we go about tracking this? Are we talking about complicated software?
Not necessarily complicated at all. There are many ways, and the best method is the one you'll actually stick with. Some people find a simple pen and paper log to be incredibly effective. At the end of each day, or even at the end of each focus session, you simply jot down the start and end times of your deep work blocks. You could use a small notebook or even a dedicated page in your planner.
A physical log. I like that. It feels very immediate. So, I just mark down, say, 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., deep work on proposal.
Precisely. And over time, you'll start to see trends. You might notice you're most productive in the morning or that your focus wanes after lunch. This information is gold for refining your schedule, which we talked about in episode 2. This tracking becomes your personal productivity scorecard.
And for those who prefer a more digital approach,
There are fantastic options for that. Many digital calendars allow you to color code different types of activities. You could designate a specific color for deep work. When you block out time for a focused task, you use that color. Then, at the end of the week, you can glance at your calendar and get a visual representation of your deep work hours.
that's a visual cue. So, if I see a lot of my chosen deep work color, I know I've had a good week of focused effort.
Exactly. Other tools are specifically designed for tracking time. These can be more detailed, allowing you to categorize your tasks and generate reports. Some even have features where you can start and stop a timer for each focus session. This gives you incredibly precise data on how much time you're dedicating to deep work. You might be surprised to see how much time is spent in shallow work, even when you intended to do deep work.
That's a good point. It's easy to slip into checking emails or responding to messages, thinking you're just taking a quick break, but those moments add up and chip away at our focus time. This tracking can highlight those insidious time sinks.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the quantity of time, it's about the quality. Some advanced trackers allow you to rate your focus level after each session. This helps you understand not only how much time you spent, but also how well you spent it. Were you truly immersed, or were you fighting distractions the whole time?
So, the data you gather from tracking can inform your entire approach to deep work. It's not just about accountability, but also about optimization.
Precisely. Once you have this data, you can ask yourself powerful questions. Am I scheduling enough deep work time each week? Are my deep work sessions long enough to achieve meaningful progress? Which types of tasks consistently lead to my best deep work? Answering these can lead to adjustments, perhaps longer focus blocks, or rescheduling demanding tasks to your peak performance times.
This ties back to building your focus sanctuary from episode 4, doesn't it? Knowing when you're most focused and how long that focus typically lasts allows you to design your environment and your schedule to maximize those periods.
It absolutely does. And remember episode 7 about taming the communication beast? Tracking your deep work hours can reveal if your communication batching strategies are actually freeing up the time you thought they would for focused work. If you're still not getting enough deep work hours despite trying to batch, it might indicate that your batches aren't efficient enough or that other distractions are creeping in.
So, to recap for our listeners, tracking your deep work hours is essential for understanding your productivity, identifying patterns, and making informed adjustments to your schedule and habits. You can use simple methods like a pen and paper log, digital calendars, or dedicated time tracking applications. The key is consistency and using the data to your advantage.
That's a perfect summary. Lisa, this isn't about creating more work. It's about gaining clarity and mastering your focus by measuring what matters. Think of this scorecard as your guide to building a more productive and fulfilling work life. It's about making deliberate choices that lead to genuine progress.
It really turns the abstract concept of deep work into something tangible and measurable. I'm definitely going to start implementing a tracking method.
Excellent. Next episode, building resilience, strengthening your focus muscle. Welcome back. Last time, we explored how to track your deep hours and measure your focus. Today, we're diving into perhaps the most crucial aspect of sustained deep work, building resilience. How do we strengthen our focus muscle so it can withstand the constant barrage of distractions?
That's such a great question, Alex. It feels like our attention spans are constantly being tested. Are we talking about willpower, or is there more to it?
It's definitely more than just sheer willpower. Lisa, think of your focus like a muscle in your body. You wouldn't expect to run a marathon without training, right? Similarly, you can't expect to achieve extended periods of deep work without training your brain to focus. We need to build up that capacity gradually. Just as you strengthen physical muscles, you can strengthen your mental focus.
Okay, so how do we train our focus muscle? What are some of these exercises?
A fantastic starting point is mindfulness and mediation. Now, some people hear meditation and picture sitting cross-legged for hours, but it doesn't have to be that. Even just a few minutes a day can make a significant difference. It's about intentionally bringing your attention to one thing, often your breath, and when your mind wanders, gently guiding it back.
Ah, so the act of noticing your mind has wandered and bringing it back is the exercise itself?
Exactly. That's the reps for your focus muscle. Every time you notice a thought, an urge to check your phone, or an external distraction, and you consciously redirect your attention back to your task or your breath, you're strengthening that neural pathway for focus. We're essentially teaching our brain to resist the immediate pull of distraction. This repeated act builds your capacity for sustained attention.
That makes sense. So, mindfulness isn't just about being calm, it's actively training your attention. What about when we are trying to do deep work and distractions pop up? How do we build resilience in those moments?
This is where short, focused bursts of effort come into play. Instead of trying to go from 0 to 60 minutes of uninterrupted deep work, start smaller. Perhaps try for 15 or 20 minutes of focused attention on a single task. Set a timer. During that time, commit to not checking email, not looking at your phone, and not getting up for a snack. It's about creating small, achievable victories.
So, a very deliberate, short session of focused work. What happens when that timer goes off?
When the timer rings, acknowledge that you completed your focus block. You can then take a short, structured break. This break isn't a free-for-all, it's a planned pause. Maybe you stand up, stretch, grab a glass of water, and then transition back to your next task. Or if you're feeling strong, you might go for another focused work block. The key is to build a rhythm of focused effort followed by a short, intentional reset. This cycle helps reinforce the focus habit.
I can see how that would be more manageable than aiming for hours at a time. It's like interval training for your brain. And what are the benefits of this kind of training beyond just longer focus periods?
The benefits are immense. As your focus muscle strengthens, you'll find you get into a flow state more easily and can sustain it for longer. This leads to higher quality work because you're not constantly switching contexts. You'll also experience less mental fatigue. When you're always succumbing to distractions, your brain is expending a lot of energy just switching gears. By strengthening your focus, you can serve that mental energy, allowing you to be more productive with less exhaustion.
That's a crucial point. I often feel drained after a day of work, even if I don't feel like I accomplished much because I was pulled in so many directions. So, building this resilience means feeling more effective and less exhausted.
Precisely. Another technique is to practice deliberately ignoring low-value distractions. Imagine you receive a notification and you know it's probably just a social media ping. Instead of reflexively checking it, consciously decide to ignore it. You can even plan to check your notifications at a designated time later. This conscious act of deferring gratification strengthens your ability to resist impulses. You're actively choosing what to pay attention to.
So, it's about creating a habit of not reacting immediately to every digital nudge. And this builds up our ability to say no to distractions when we're in deep work mode.
Yes, it's about building that internal control. We also want to be mindful of our environment. Even when training, minimizing environmental distractions can help. If you're practicing focused work, try to find a quieter space if possible. Turn off notifications on all your devices, not just the one you're working on. Creating an environment that supports focus during your training sessions makes the exercise more effective.
So, it's a combination of internal practice like mindfulness and deliberate focus bursts, and external support like a conducive environment. Are there any other ways to challenge ourselves and build this resilience?
One advanced technique is what I call focus challenges. This is where you set a specific, difficult goal for uninterrupted focus. For instance, you might declare, for the next hour, I will not touch my email or my phone. I will only work on this one complex report. The key is to pick a challenging but achievable goal. When you succeed, celebrate that win. It reinforces the positive behavior. Think of it as a goal to aspire to pushing your limits.
That sounds intense, but I can see how it would really push the boundaries of your focus capacity. It's like lifting heavier weights at the gym.
Exactly. And remember, this is a gradual process. Don't get discouraged if you can only manage 10 minutes of focused work when you started. The fact that you're making that effort is progress. Over time, with consistent practice, you'll find those 10 minutes stretch into 15, then 20, and eventually longer. It's about consistent, intentional effort, building strength over time.
So, to recap for our listeners, building resilience in your focus muscle involves mindfulness practices to train your attention, short, deliberate blocks of focused work to build stamina, practicing controlled responses to distractions, creating supportive environments, and gradually challenging yourself with focus goals.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. Remember, deep work isn't a skill you're either born with or not. It's a muscle you can train and strengthen. By engaging in these practices consistently, you'll not only improve your ability to focus, but also enhance your overall productivity and reduce mental fatigue. Next episode, protecting your creative gold, guarding your valuable time. Welcome back. Last time we covered strengthening your focus muscle. Now, let's tackle guarding your valuable time.
That's so important, Alex. We often think of value in terms of financial gain, but our creative time, the time we dedicate to deep, focused work, is arguably our most precious resource. It's where innovation happens, where breakthroughs emerge, and where we produce our best, most impactful work. And just like gold, it's something that needs to be actively protected.
Exactly. Think about it, Lisa. If someone asked you to guard a vault of actual gold, you'd put up strong doors, maybe even higher guards, right? You wouldn't just leave it open for anyone to waltz in and take what they please. Yet, many of us leave our most valuable creative time completely exposed.
That's a perfect analogy. We often allow interruptions, demands, and even our own poor habits to chip away at those deep work sessions. And the cumulative effect of those chips, those stolen minutes and disrupted thoughts, can be devastating to our creative output. We end up with shallow work, unfinished projects, and that nagging feeling of not quite reaching our potential.
So, the first step in protecting our creative gold is recognizing its true value. It's not just time, it's quality time. It's the time that allows for deep concentration, for connecting disparate ideas, and for sustained problem solving. This is the engine of innovation.
And how do we start actively protecting it? I think a big part of it is setting clear boundaries. We touched on scheduling in an earlier segment, but this is about actively defending those scheduled deep work blocks.
Absolutely. Setting boundaries involves a few key strategies. First, we need to be proactive. Instead of waiting for your schedule to be overrun, you need to consciously create protected time. This means identifying when you are most creative and sharpest, and then literally blocking that time out on your calendar. Think of it like booking a meeting with yourself, but it's the most important meeting of the day.
And when colleagues or even family members see that meeting with yourself, what do you do? How do you communicate that this time is non-negotiable, or at least highly prioritized?
That brings us to the crucial skill of learning to say no, or rather, learning to say not now. It's not about being unhelpful or uncooperative. It's about protecting the focus needed to ultimately deliver more valuable work. So, when a request comes and that infringes on your deep work time, you can respond by saying, I can help with that, but I'm currently in a deep focus block. Can we revisit this at a specific time later in the day or week?
That's a gentle but firm way of redirecting. It acknowledges the request but clearly states your unavailability and offers an alternative. It's about communicating your process without being defensive.
Precisely. And this communication needs to extend beyond just saying no. It's also about proactively informing people. Let your team know that between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., you'll be unavailable for non-urgent matters. If you're working remotely, you might set your status to focusing or do not disturb during those times. The more people understand your need for uninterrupted periods, the more they tend to respect it.
I can see how that clarity is essential. And it's not just about external interruptions, is it? We also need to protect our internal landscape. Our own urge to check email, social media, or switch to a less demanding task can be a significant saboteur of deep work.
You're absolutely right, Lisa. This connects back to our earlier discussions on building resilience and managing digital distractions. You have to consciously choose to stay on task during your protected creative time. This might involve turning off notifications, closing unnecessary browser tabs, or even using website blockers. It's about creating an environment where your focus isn't constantly being pulled away.
So, to recap, protecting our creative gold, our valuable deep work time, involves three main pillars. First, proactively scheduling and defending those blocks. Second, mastering the art of saying not now and communicating our focus needs clearly to others. And third, diligently managing our internal impulses and external digital distractions to ensure the protected time remains truly undisturbed.
That's a great summary, Lisa. And remember, this isn't a one-time fix. Protecting your creative time is an ongoing practice. It requires constant vigilance and a commitment to valuing your deep work. The more you practice it, the more habits will shift, both for you and for those around you.
And the rewards are immense. When you consistently protect your creative gold, you'll find your output improves, your ideas become more profound, and you'll experience a greater sense of satisfaction and accomplishment from your work. It truly is an investment that pays dividends.
Next episode, the hybrid approach, looking at how to seamlessly blend focus and flow in a dynamic work environment. Welcome back. Last time, we explored how to protect your most valuable creative time. Now, we're diving into the hybrid approach, seamlessly blending focus and flow.
That sounds crucial, Alex. We've talked a lot about deep work, which is all about focused, uninterrupted effort. But in the real world, we also have to deal with communication, administrative tasks, and those inevitable interruptions. So, how do we balance the two without losing our deep work momentum?
Exactly, Lisa. It's about creating a workflow that's not just about intense focus, but also about intelligent transitions. Think of it like a skilled musician. They can move from a complex solo to a harmonious melody without missing a beat. We want to achieve that same fluidity between our deep work blocks and our more responsive or shallow tasks.
So, it's not about eliminating shallow work entirely, which we know isn't realistic for most of us. It's about managing it so it doesn't sabotage our deep work.
Precisely. And we can apply so many principles we've already discussed. Remember when we discussed taming the communication beast? Batching our emails and messages is a prime example of managing shallow tasks effectively. Instead of checking your inbox every few minutes, you designate specific times for it. This creates a contained block of shallow work, allowing your deep work to remain uninterrupted.
That makes sense. So, when you're in a deep work session, you're not even tempted by notifications. And when you move to your designated communication time, you're fully present for that, too. It's about commitment to the task at hand, whether it's deep or shallow.
Absolutely. And let's bring in the concepts of engineering your productivity haven and crafting your focus sanctuary. When you're transitioning out of a deep work block, you might have a specific ritual. Perhaps you close down all your deep work-related applications and open up your communication tools. This mental and digital shift signals to your brain that your focus is changing.
It's like changing gears in a car. You don't just slam from first to fifth. You move through the gears smoothly. So this transition ritual is key to preventing that jarring feeling when you have to switch modes.
You've got it. And this also leads us to the concept of flow within these transitions. While deep work is about intense focus, flow can encompass a broader state of engaged activity. When you're efficiently batching your emails, for instance, you can enter a state of flow, processing them quickly and effectively. This isn't the same as deep work, but it's a highly productive state nonetheless. The hybrid approach allows you to dip into these different productive states without friction.
So we're not just looking at deep work versus shallow work, but also at different modalities of productive engagement. Sometimes deep work is the goal. Other times, efficient shallow work is the immediate need. And the key is making the switch between them seamless.
Exactly. And to achieve this, we need to be intentional about our scheduling. Remember your deep work blueprint? We schedule blocks for deep work. Now, we also need to schedule blocks for our shallow work, our administrative tasks, and even for responding to certain communications. This creates a structured container for all aspects of our work.
So instead of just having a big chunk of work time, we're actually mapping out different types of work and their corresponding focus levels. This sounds like a real time saver and a momentum builder.
It absolutely is. And think about building resilience. When we approach our work this way, we build resilience. We know that even if our deep work session is interrupted by an urgent shallow task, we have a plan to return to it shortly. This reduces the anxiety and the feeling of being derailed that often comes with interruptions.
That's a great point. It's about having confidence that you can handle the necessary shallow tasks without them permanently derailing your deep work. You're essentially building a structure that supports both.
And to make this even more effective, consider the idea of theme days or time blocking. For example, you might dedicate mornings to deep work and afternoons to meetings and administrative tasks. Or you might have a Communication Tuesday, where you focus heavily on responses and planning related to communication. This segmentation helps your brain prepare for a particular type of engagement.
That's a fantastic way to approach it. It's about actively engineering your day to embrace these different states of productivity. So, to recap for our listeners, the hybrid approach is about intentionally blending our focused deep work with essential shallow tasks by, firstly, continuing to batch our shallow tasks, like communications. Secondly, using transition rituals to mentally and digitally shift between task types. Thirdly, understanding that flow states can exist in both focused and efficient shallow work, and that our hybrid approach facilitates movement between them. And finally, structuring our schedule to purposefully allocate time for both deep and shallow work and practicing resilience so these transitions are smooth, not disruptive.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. This approach acknowledges the reality of modern work while allowing us to harness the power of deep work. It's about creating a truly dynamic and highly productive workflow. Next episode, Overcoming the Resistance, Battling Procrastination and Inertia. Welcome back. Last time, we explored the hybrid approach to deep work. Now, let's tackle something that's a universal challenge. Overcoming the resistance that keeps us from starting, battling procrastination and inertia.
Yes, the siren call of I'll do it later. It's so easy to get stuck before we even begin, isn't it? Procrastination and that heavy feeling of inertia can really derail even the best deep work plans.
Absolutely, Lisa. It's a mental hurdle that trips up so many of us. Think of it this way. Deep work often requires significant mental effort, and our brains are naturally wired to seek out easier, more rewarding activities. Procrastination is often a way our brains try to avoid discomfort or perceived difficulty.
So, it's not just about being lazy then. It's a more complex psychological reaction.
Exactly. And understanding that is the first step. When you feel that resistance, ask yourself, what discomfort am I trying to avoid? Is it the fear of not doing a good enough job? Is it the task feeling too overwhelming? Is it just a lack of immediate reward?
That's a great point. I know for me, if a task feels huge, I'm more likely to put it off. It's like staring up at a massive mountain.
And the key to climbing a massive mountain is to focus on the very next step, right? This is where breaking down tasks becomes incredibly powerful for overcoming inertia. Instead of thinking, write chapter 12, think, outline the first section of a chapter, or even write the introduction for the first section of a chapter. Make it so small, it's almost impossible not to do.
So, we're making the first step so tiny that the effort to avoid it is actually greater than the effort to do it? That's clever.
Precisely. It's about lowering the activation energy required to get started. Another strategy is to create environmental cues. Remember how we talked about crafting your focus sanctuary? Reinforce those cues. If your deep workspace is set up, it's a tangible reminder and a trigger to begin.
That makes sense. If I'm already in my focus zone, it's harder to justify not working. What about that feeling of just being stuck, the inertia? It feels more like a physical weight.
Inertia is that tendency for things to stay put, right? To overcome it, you need a little push. Sometimes, simply committing to working for a very short, defined period can break the spell. Think of the 5-minute rule. Tell yourself you'll just work on the task for 5 minutes. Often, once you start, you'll find yourself continuing for longer.
The 5-minute rule. I've heard of that. So it's not about the big, overwhelming commitment, but just getting the ball rolling for a tiny bit.
Exactly. And it's about reframing your mindset. Instead of thinking about how difficult the task is, focus on the benefit of completing it. What will you gain by finishing this deep work session? A sense of accomplishment? Progress on a significant goal? Less stress later on?
That's a powerful shift. Focusing on the positive outcome rather than the immediate struggle. It's like the difference between dreading a tough workout versus looking forward to feeling stronger and healthier afterward.
Beautiful analogy, Lisa. And we can use a technique called temptation bundling. This means pairing an activity you need to do with an activity you want to do. For example, if you find listening to a specific podcast enjoyable, only allow yourself to listen to it while you're doing your deep work.
Ooh, so you're rewarding yourself with something you enjoy during the task you're resisting? That's a great way to make the process more palatable.
It is. It helps make the deep work feel less like a chore and more like an earned privilege. Now, let's talk about what to do when you do slip up. Because everyone does. Procrastination might happen. Today might be a low-energy day. The key here is to avoid the what the hell effect.
The what the hell effect? What's that?
It's that mindset where you think, well, I've already messed up my day by procrastinating, so I might as well just give up completely and start fresh tomorrow. This is incredibly damaging to habit formation.
Oh, I know that voice. Might as well just watch this one more video.
Exactly. Instead, practice self-compassion. Acknowledge that you slipped, but immediately refocus on the next opportunity. If you missed your morning deep work block, can you fit in a shorter, focused session later in the day? One missed session doesn't erase all your progress.
So, it's about immediate recovery, not spiraling into a full day of avoidance. That's a crucial distinction.
Absolutely. It's about building resilience. And remember, your ability to overcome resistance and inertia is a skill. Like any skill, it gets stronger with practice. The more you push through these mental barriers, the less power they have over you.
So, to quickly recap for our listeners, when faced with resistance, first, identify the discomfort you're trying to avoid. Then, break down tasks into tiny, actionable steps. Use environmental cues to trigger your focus. Employ the 5-minute rule to overcome inertia. Reframe your mindset by focusing on the benefits of completion. Pair necessary tasks with enjoyable ones through temptation bundling. And crucially, practice self-compassion and immediate recovery if you slip up, avoiding that what the hell effect.
You got it, Lisa. These are practical psychological tools and mindset shifts that can dramatically improve your ability to consistently engage in deep work. It's not about magically eliminating resistance, but about developing the strategies to push through it.
It really empowers us to take control rather than feeling like a victim of our own minds.
Exactly, because sustained deep work isn't just about scheduling time. It's about developing the mental fortitude to actually use that time effectively, even when our brains try to convince us otherwise.
This has been incredibly valuable, Alex. It feels like we've been given a toolkit to actually do the deep work we've been planning.
I'm glad to hear that, because the real magic happens when you consistently show up and do the work day after day. And overcoming procrastination and inertia is a huge part of making that happen. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Last time we covered how to tackle procrastination and inertia. Today we're exploring deep work in connected modern workplaces.
It feels like a paradox, doesn't it, Alex? Deep work is about uninterrupted time, but modern workplaces often thrive on constant communication. How do we reconcile those two opposing forces?
That's exactly where we need to get strategic. The core idea remains the same. Protect those blocks of time for cognitively demanding tasks. But in a connected world, that protection requires more intentionality and clear communication. We're not just shutting ourselves off, we're setting boundaries for a specific purpose. Remember when we discussed batching communication? This is a natural extension of that principle, but applied to protecting our focus time.
Right. Batching helps reduce the constant influx of messages. So, for deep work, it's about creating intentional gaps in that influx. What are some actionable ways to do that, especially when our colleagues or managers might not be on the same page about deep work?
First, we need to make our need for deep work visible and understood. This isn't about being uncooperative, it's about being effective. One powerful tactic is to proactively communicate your deep work schedule. Instead of just disappearing, let your team know, I'll be dedicating the hours between 10 a.m. and noon to focused work on Project X. During this time, I'll be minimally available for urgent matters only. You can even put this in your calendar.
So, being upfront about it. That takes some courage, especially if the default expectation is always on availability. What if people still interrupt or don't respect those blocks?
That's where negotiation and reinforcing those boundaries come in. If someone interrupts with something that could have waited, you can gently redirect them. A simple, "Thanks for reaching out. This sounds important, but I'm in a deep work session right now. Can I get back to you on this right after my session at noon? Or would you prefer to send me an email?" This acknowledges their request, but clearly sets the expectation for when you'll engage.
I like that. It's polite but firm. It's about managing expectations. So, in essence, we're communicating our availability and unavailability strategically.
Precisely. And it's not just about external communication. We also need to optimize our internal environment for focus. This means minimizing digital distractions as much as possible. Turn off non-essential notifications. Close unnecessary tabs. Even consider using website blockers if you find yourself drifting. It's about making it harder to get pulled away from your task.
That digital detox aspect we touched on earlier becomes even more crucial here. It's not just about taking a full sabbatical, it's about implementing mini detoxes throughout the workday.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the physical space. If you're in an open office, can you find a quieter spot for your deep work sessions? Maybe a conference room, a quiet zone, or even working from home for a designated period if your company culture allows it. It's about actively engineering your environment to support focus, rather than passively accepting whatever distractions come your way.
So, we're talking about proactive communication, boundary setting, minimizing digital distractions, and optimizing our physical workspace. It sounds like a multi-pronged approach. Are there specific communication patterns that we should be wary of in a connected world?
Absolutely. Instant messaging platforms, while convenient, can be huge productivity killers. If you're in a deep work session, resist the urge to respond immediately to every ping. Set dedicated times to check messages, ideally after your focused work block. This trains both yourself and others to understand that not every message requires an instant reply. Think about it. If you're deeply engrossed in a complex problem, a quick chat message can easily derail your entire train of thought, and it can take a significant amount of time to regain that level of focus.
That makes so much sense. It's like constantly switching gears. It's much more efficient to complete a task or a significant chunk of it before shifting to another. And this applies to meetings too, right? We often have back-to-back meetings that completely fragment our day.
You've hit on a key point. Meetings are a common enemy of deep work. If possible, try to consolidate your meetings to specific days or times, leaving other periods open for deep work. If a meeting isn't essential for you to attend, politely decline or suggest sending a representative who can capture the key information. And when you are in a meeting, ensure it's productive by having a clear agenda and a defined outcome. Unproductive meetings are essentially planned distractions.
So it's about being intentional with how we spend our time, both in and out of meetings. It's about being an advocate for our own focus.
Precisely. And it's a continuous process. You'll have days where it's harder than others. The key is to not get discouraged, but to learn from each experience and adjust your approach. Remember, deep work isn't a rigid discipline that requires total isolation. It's about strategically integrating focused, demanding work into a collaborative environment in a way that benefits everyone through increased productivity and higher quality output.
So, to recap, to practice deep work in a connected world, we need to 1. Proactively communicate our deep work schedules and intentions to our colleagues. 2. Establish clear boundaries and politely redirect interruptions. 3. Minimize digital distractions by turning off notifications and using tools to block distracting websites. And 4. Optimize our physical workspace for focus. Plus, being mindful of meeting schedules and the impact of instant messaging.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. It's about building a culture, even within yourself, that values and protects focus time, even amidst the demands of a busy, interconnected workplace. This will set us up perfectly for tailoring deep work strategies for different roles and professions. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Last time we explored scheduling focused blocks, decluttering distractions, and crafting your ideal environment. Today, we're discussing how deep work looks different for various roles.
That's such a great point, Alex. It's easy to think deep work is just for writers or programmers, but the principles are universal, even if the application varies. So, how do we start tailoring this for, say, an entrepreneur versus an academic?
Exactly. Let's start with entrepreneurs. Many entrepreneurs wear multiple hats. They're strategists, salespeople, marketers, and sometimes even customer support. The challenge for them is that their days can feel incredibly fragmented. Deep work for an entrepreneur means identifying the few core activities that truly drive the business forward.
So, instead of trying to do everything, they identify those high impact tasks. What would those be?
Often it's strategic planning, product development, or key client relationships. An entrepreneur might dedicate a specific morning each week, say Tuesdays from 9 a.m. to noon, solely for strategic thinking. During that time, all communication channels are off, no meetings are scheduled, and the focus is purely on the long-term vision or a critical business problem. It's about protecting that small sliver of time for high-level thinking, which is easily lost in the day-to-day chaos.
That makes sense. It's carving out time for the engine of the business, not just the daily operations. What about creatives, artists, designers, musicians? Their work is inherently about focus and inspiration.
For creatives, deep work is often about entering and maintaining a state of flow. Many find their best creative output happens during extended, uninterrupted periods. A painter might dedicate an entire afternoon to a single canvas, or a musician might block out a day for composing. The key here is often isolating themselves, not just digitally, but sometimes physically. Think of a writer renting a remote cabin or a composer using a soundproof studio.
So, for them, it's about creating an environment that fosters that immersive creative state and removing any potential for interruption that might break that spell.
Precisely. Now let's shift to academics and researchers. Their work is usually project-based and requires significant intellectual rigor. Deep work involves long stretches for reading, writing, data analysis, and critical thinking. Academics often have a lot of autonomy over their schedules, which can be a blessing and a curse.
Right? No one's going to force them to take an uninterrupted block if they don't decide to do it themselves.
That's the challenge. A professor might need to dedicate hours each week to writing research papers, preparing lectures, or analyzing complex data sets. Deep work for them means scheduling these blocks and defending them fiercely against committee meetings, administrative tasks, or student inquiries. They might decide that Mondays and Fridays are writing days, and Tuesdays and Thursdays are for teaching and meetings.
And I imagine for academics, the reading component is also a form of deep work, right? Processing dense material requires focus.
Absolutely. It's not just about output, but also about input, absorbing and processing information. Now, what about roles that seem inherently more collaborative or people-focused, like managers or team leads? It might seem counterintuitive.
That's what I was thinking. Managers are constantly pulled in different directions, right? Team check-ins, performance reviews, sorting out inter-team conflicts.
They are. But even for managers, deep work is crucial. Instead of being a constant responder, a manager practicing deep work identifies times for focused strategic thinking about their team's direction, planning major projects, or dedicating time to mentoring and developing their team members. They might schedule a block each week to review team performance data and plan interventions, or to brainstorm a new process. It's about strategically allocating time for the tasks that enable their team to do deep work and for their own strategic thinking.
So, even managers need to create those focus zones for themselves, rather than just reacting all day.
Exactly. And for many of these roles, it's about a hybrid approach. We've talked about this before, but it's worth reiterating. Deep work doesn't mean eliminating all shallow work or collaboration. It means ensuring dedicated time for the cognitively demanding tasks that drive the most value. For a manager, That might mean a deep work block for strategic planning, followed by a block for collaborative problem solving with their team.
It's about being intentional with your time, recognizing which tasks require sustained focus and which can be handled more efficiently in shorter bursts or through collaboration. So, to recap, for entrepreneurs, it's about identifying core growth drivers. For creatives, it's about fostering an immersive flow state. For academics, it's about protecting time for rigorous research and writing. And for managers, it's about carving out space for strategic leadership and team development.
That's a great summary, Lisa. The common thread is recognizing what types of tasks are most important for your role and dedicating protected, uninterrupted time to them. It's not about eradicating your job function, but about optimizing how you perform its most critical elements.
It's about being proactive about your focus, regardless of your title or industry. The flexibility of deep work means we can adapt it to fit our unique professional landscapes.
Absolutely. Happy learning. Welcome back. Last time, we explored tailoring deep work strategies for different roles. Today, we're shifting our focus to something crucial for long-term success, the long game.
That's such an important question, Alex. We've learned so much about how to do deep work, but making it stick, especially when life throws curveballs, is the real challenge. It's not just about a phase, it's about building a life.
Exactly, Lisa. And to build a life, we have to think about sustainability. One of the biggest pitfalls of intense focus periods can be burnout. We've talked about deep work being demanding, and while it's rewarding, running on empty isn't productive in the long run. So, how do we prevent burnout using our deep work principles?
I think it comes back to balance, which we've touched on, but now we need to integrate it as a core part of the long-term strategy. It's about not just scheduling deep work, but also scheduling rest and recovery. Remember when we discussed scheduling impactful blocks? It's like that, but we need to consider the recovery blocks just as seriously.
Absolutely. Those recovery blocks are non-negotiable. Think of your brain like a muscle. You wouldn't lift weights intensely every single day without rest, right? Your focus muscles need the same care. This means deliberate downtime, which might look like hobbies, spending time with loved ones, or simply unplugging. It's actively choosing not to be in a state of high cognitive demand.
So, it's about being proactive about rest, not just reactive when we're already exhausted. And this also ties into adapting our routines as life circumstances change. We can't expect a deep work schedule from 5 years ago to work perfectly today.
Precisely. Life evolves. We might have new family responsibilities, career shifts, or even just changes in our personal energy levels. The key is flexibility within the framework. Our deep work blueprint isn't rigid. It's a living document. We might need to adjust the length of our deep work blocks, the time of day we engage in them, or the frequency.
This sounds a bit like what we discussed about tailoring approaches, but on a broader, life stage level.
Very similar, but with a long-term, adaptive lens. It's about being honest with ourselves. If a certain routine isn't working anymore because our life has changed, pushing harder against it is a recipe for frustration, not sustained productivity. Instead, we need to ask, how can I adapt this deep work ideal to my current reality?
And that adaptation requires self-awareness. We need to be regularly checking in with ourselves.
Speaking of checking in, this is where tracking our focus comes back in. Remember the scorecard of focus? Tracking deep hours isn't just for the short term. It's invaluable for identifying patterns over time. Are your deep hours consistently declining? Are you noticing a dip in your focus quality? This data helps us understand when an adaptation is needed before we hit a crisis.
That's a great point. The data provides objective insight into subjective feelings. So we're looking at scheduling and rest, being flexible with our routines, and using our tracking data to inform those adaptations. What else is crucial for this long game?
I think it's about integrating deep work into a long-term strategy for personal and professional growth. It's not just about getting more done today. It's about cultivating the capacity to do meaningful, cognitively demanding work consistently throughout your career and life. This means protecting our most valuable asset, our focused attention.
And we talked about protecting our creative gold. It feels like all these concepts are weaving together for this long-term sustainability.
They absolutely are. It's about building resilience. Deep work habits build focus muscles, but those muscles need to be strong enough to withstand the inevitable distractions and demands of life. This means actively strengthening our ability to resist shallow work, to say no, and to recommit to our goals even when it's difficult.
So, the long game isn't just about maintaining habits, but about nurturing the underlying capacity for them to exist and thrive. It's a holistic approach.
Precisely. It's about embracing the philosophy that deep work isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And like any marathon runner, you need a strategy for pacing yourself, fueling yourself, and adapting to the course. It's about cultivating that intrinsic motivation, that sense of purpose derived from engaging in challenging, meaningful work.
And when we do that, when we build these sustainable habits, the ripple effect is monumental. Our productivity isn't just a tool for getting tasks done, it becomes a foundation for a more fulfilling life and career.
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? To not just survive, but to thrive by mastering our attention and using it for what truly matters. So, to recap for today, sustaining deep work for lifelong productivity means proactively scheduling rest and recovery to prevent burnout, being flexible and adaptive with our routines as life changes, and using our tracking data to identify when adjustments are needed. It's about building resilience and ensuring our focus muscles are strong enough for the marathon ahead. Integrating deep work as a core strategy for long-term personal and professional growth.
That's a fantastic summary, Alex. It really emphasizes that deep work is a continuous journey of learning and adaptation. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back. Last time we covered sustaining deep work habits for lifelong productivity. Now, let's explore some truly advanced strategies to supercharge your focus.
That's right, Alex. We've spent a lot of time building the foundation for deep work, from understanding its importance and scheduling blocks to decluttering and creating focus sanctuaries. We've even talked about digital detoxes and taming communication. Now, we're going to refine those techniques with even more sophisticated methods.
Exactly. Remember in an earlier episode, we laid out the blueprint for scheduling impactful blocks of deep work? Well, today we're taking that concept and building a skyscraper on it. We're going to talk about some highly structured approaches that can take your focus to the next level.
So, where do we start with these advanced strategies?
Let's begin with time blocking. This is a really powerful technique, and it's an evolution of just scheduling a general deep work hour. With time blocking, you divide your entire workday into specific blocks of time, and you assign a specific task or type of activity to each block. It's not just about when you'll do deep work, but what you'll do and when you'll do everything else.
So, instead of saying, I'll do deep work this morning, it's more like, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I will write the Q3 report, and I will close all other applications and turn off notifications.
Precisely. You're not just dedicating time to deep work. You're designating time for specific deep work tasks. And crucially, it also includes blocks for shallow work, planning, communication, breaks, and even travel time if you commute. This creates a highly intentional and structured day. Think of it like a meticulously planned journey where every stop is accounted for.
That sounds incredibly organized. What are the main benefits of this level of structure?
The biggest benefit is mental clarity. When you're constantly deciding what to do next, you're engaging in shallow decision-making that drains your cognitive energy. Time blocking removes that constant decision fatigue. You look at your schedule, and you know exactly what's next. It also helps prevent context switching, which we know is a major productivity killer. By grouping similar tasks into blocks, you minimize the mental overhead of jumping between different types of work.
That makes so much sense. So, it's about being proactive in how you allocate your time, rather than reactive to whatever comes up.
Absolutely. Now, let's move on to another advanced technique, theme days. This takes the idea of grouping similar tasks even further. Instead of blocking out time for specific tasks daily, you dedicate entire days to a certain type of work or a specific project.
Oh, I like the sound of that. So, one day might be all about creative writing, another day for financial analysis, and a third for administrative tasks?
Exactly. Imagine having a Writing Wednesday where your entire focus is dedicated to crafting content, brainstorming ideas, and polishing your prose. Or a Finance Friday to deep dive into budgets, reports, and financial planning. The goal is to create a deep, sustained focus on a particular theme, allowing you to get into a significant flow state without the disruptions of switching gears between unrelated tasks day after day.
This sounds like it would really allow you to build momentum on bigger projects. If you have a whole day dedicated to one subject, you're not losing time at the start of the day reorienting yourself.
That's the power of it. You're creating momentum and deep immersion. And it works particularly well for roles that have distinct types of work. For example, a marketer might have a content creation Tuesday, a data analysis Thursday, and a team collaboration Friday. It requires careful planning, of course, to ensure all your responsibilities are met, but the payoff in terms of focused output can be immense.
So, we have time blocking for detailed, often daily, task allocation, and theme days for broader, day-long focus on specific areas. Are there any other frameworks that build on these ideas?
Yes, there's several. One often mentioned is batching, which we touched on briefly when discussing taming the communication beast. But it can be applied to much more than just email and calls. For instance, you can batch research, batch administrative tasks, or even batch creative brainstorming. The principle is to set aside specific periods to do only one type of shallow task, rather than scattering them throughout your week.
So, if I have several small research tasks across different projects, I dedicate a specific block to just doing all that research at once?
Precisely. It's about minimizing the mental overhead. Instead of opening and closing tabs for different research topics multiple times a day, you do it all in one go. Another powerful concept is the Pomodoro technique. While not as much of a scheduling framework as time blocking or theme days, it's a fantastic method for maintaining focus within those blocks. It involves working in focused sprints, typically 25 minutes long, followed by short breaks.
Ah, the Pomodoro technique. I've heard of that. So, you work intensely for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break and repeat. That's a great way to break down daunting tasks and prevent burnout.
Exactly. It helps you maintain high levels of concentration for shorter bursts and ensures you take restorative breaks. It complements time blocking and theme days perfectly. You might have a 2-hour time block for writing, and within that block, you'd employ the Pomodoro technique for 25-minute writing sprints with 5-minute breaks in between.
It sounds like these advanced strategies are all about intentionality and structure. They're not just about what you do, but how and when you do it, taking continuous action to optimize your focus.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. These methods, whether it's the granular detail of time blocking, the broad immersion of theme days, the efficiency of batching, or the focus sprints of Pomodoro, all aim to minimize distractions, reduce context switching, and maximize your deep work output. They require practice and adaptation to your personal workflow, but they are incredibly effective once mastered.
So, to recap, time blocking involves dividing your day into specific task-oriented segments. Theme days dedicate entire days to single types of work or projects. Batching involves grouping similar shallow tasks together for efficiency. And the Pomodoro technique uses focused work sprints with short breaks. These are all tools to help us harness our focus more effectively.
Absolutely. These advanced strategies are about taking control of your time and attention with a high degree of precision. They build upon the foundations we've discussed throughout this series, pushing your deep work capabilities even further.
This has been incredibly insightful, Alex. I feel like I have a whole new toolbox of techniques to experiment with.
Next episode, the amazing ripple effect. How deep work can actually transform your entire life beyond just your professional output. Welcome back. Last time, we delved into advanced deep work strategies like time blocking and theme days. Today, we're exploring how mastering deep work transforms your entire life.
That's right, Alex. When I first started, I was focused on just getting more done at my job. But as I've practiced these principles, I've noticed something amazing. It's like a pebble dropped in a pond. The ripples spread far beyond that initial splash. It impacts my relationships, my personal projects, and even how I feel about myself.
I love that analogy, Lisa. So, let's break down these ripples. We've spent so much time talking about how deep work helps you concentrate better, produce higher quality output, and feel more accomplished professionally. But what happens when you carry that same focused energy into other areas of your life?
For me, the most immediate impact was on my relationships. Think about it. When you're constantly distracted, pulling out your phone, or thinking about work emails even when you're with loved ones, you're not truly present. Deep work teaches you to be present, to give your full attention to the task at hand. When I apply that to a conversation with my partner or a play date with my kids, they get my undivided attention. And that makes them feel valued and heard.
That's such a crucial point. We often compartmentalize, thinking work focus is just for work. But the skill of focused attention is transferable. When you're not mentally juggling 100 shallow tasks, you have more cognitive bandwidth and emotional energy to invest in the people you care about. You're not just present, you're truly engaged.
Exactly. And it's not just about being a better listener. It's also about having more energy and clarity for personal projects. Remember how I was struggling to finish that novel I started years ago? Before embracing deep work, I'd try to write for maybe 20 minutes, get interrupted, and then forget what I was trying to say. Now, I can dedicate a solid hour or two to it, and I'm actually making progress. I'm not just dabbling anymore, I'm creating.
That's the power of sustained concentration, isn't it? You move from fragmented effort to genuine progress. It's the difference between chipping away at a stone with a tiny hammer and using a more powerful tool. And this sense of accomplishment, this feeling of bringing a personal project to fruition, that feeds directly into your overall well-being.
It absolutely does. When you're consistently achieving things that matter to you, whether it's a work project or a personal passion, it builds your confidence and self-esteem. You start to feel more capable and in control of your life. That constant hum of distraction and feeling overwhelmed starts to fade. It's replaced by a quiet confidence.
And this isn't just anecdotal. Think about the concept of flow state, which we touched on earlier. When you're in flow, you're not just productive, you're often experiencing a sense of joy and deep satisfaction. That feeling of being fully immersed and challenged, but also capable, is incredibly rewarding. When you cultivate that in your work, it's natural for those positive feelings to bleed into other parts of your life.
It also impacts how we manage our time and energy for self-care. When deep work helps us be more efficient during our focused hours, we often find we have more time and less mental clutter for exercise, hobbies, or simply resting. We're not just filling every spare moment with busy work because we feel like we should be doing something. We're making intentional choices.
And this goes beyond individual well-being. When we're more focused, more intentional, and more present, we become better problem solvers. This can have a ripple effect in our communities, our volunteer work, or even in how we approach societal challenges. Imagine a world where more people are capable of sustained, focused thinking.
That's a powerful thought. It's about elevating our capacity, not just for productivity, but for meaningful contribution. It's about having the mental space to think deeper, to connect the dots, and to make a more positive impact, both personally and professionally. So, to recap, the ripple effect of deep work means we're not just getting more done. We're also nurturing our relationships by being more present, making real progress on personal passions, boosting our overall well-being and self-esteem, enjoying a greater sense of flow and accomplishment, and making more intentional choices about our time for self-care.
And that, Lisa, is the true transformation. Deep work isn't just a productivity hack. It's a pathway to a more engaged, fulfilling, and purposeful life. It empowers us to be the person we want to be in all aspects of our lives.
It really is the ultimate upgrade.
Next episode, your deep work manifesto, integrating and thriving. Welcome back, everyone, to the final episode of Deep Work Daily.
This is it, Alex. Our grand finale. Today, we're really going to bring it all together.
Absolutely, Lisa. We spent the last 17 episodes diving deep into what it takes to master undistracted productivity. We've explored scheduling, decluttering, creating focused sanctuaries, digital detoxes, and so much more.
It feels like we've built this incredible toolkit, step by step. Today's the day we learn how to assemble it all and make it a permanent part of our lives. What's the big plan for our final session?
Our big plan today is to create your deep work manifesto. Think of it as your personal declaration of intent, a guiding document that pulls together all the strategies and insights we've shared. It's about integrating these practices so deeply that they become second nature, allowing you to consistently achieve peak performance and transform not just your work, but your entire life.
A deep work manifesto. I love that. It sounds so powerful. So, how do we even begin to create something like that?
We start by remembering the core pillars. Remember when we talked about the unseen productivity killers? We acknowledged how easily shallow work, constant interruptions, and a lack of focus sap our energy and prevent us from doing our most valuable work. Your manifesto will be your commitment to actively fight those killers.
Right.
So, the first step is acknowledging the problem and then committing to a solution. What comes next?
Next, we revisit the blueprints we built. We discussed scheduling impactful blocks of time for deep work. Your manifesto should clearly state your commitment to these scheduled blocks. It might be as simple as writing, I will protect my scheduled deep work hours and treat them with the same respect as a client meeting.
That's a great anchor phrase. Visualizing your deep work time as a firm appointment makes it harder to break. And what about all the shallow tasks that used to crowd our schedules?
That ties into the art of decluttering. Your manifesto needs to include your strategy for minimizing and ruthlessly reducing shallow tasks. Perhaps a statement like, I will intentionally batch shallow tasks and delegate or eliminate anything that doesn't serve my core goals. This reinforces the idea that not all work is created equal.
So we're building our manifesto with actionable commitments, drawing directly from the tools we've learned. What about our environment?
We spent a lot of time on that.
Indeed, we covered crafting your focus sanctuary, both mentally and physically. Your manifesto could contain a pledge like, I will maintain a distraction-free workspace and employ pre-work rituals that signal to my brain it's time to focus. This is about creating the conditions for success consistently.
I remember the digital detox we talked about. That felt revolutionary.
It is. In your manifesto, should reflect that. A commitment to digital sabbaticals, or at least regular periods of unplugging, is crucial. You could write, I will embrace deliberate digital breaks to recharge my focus and prevent burnout. It's about regaining control over our attention.
And the communication beast? Batching emails and messages feels like a game changer.
Absolutely. Your manifesto should acknowledge this power. I will batch my communications and resist the urge to respond instantly, preserving my mental energy for deep focus. This is about setting boundaries and managing expectations.
This is coming together so well. We've covered the scheduling, the minimizing, the environment, the digital habits, and communication. What about keeping ourselves accountable? We talked about tracking our focus hours.
The scorecard of focus. Your manifesto needs a commitment to tracking. I will regularly measure my deep work hours to understand my progress and identify areas for improvement. This continuous feedback loop is vital for long-term habit formation.
And building that resilience we discussed, that mental toughness is key.
It is. Your manifesto should include a promise to strengthen your focus muscle. I will practice mindfulness and build mental resilience to overcome distractions and maintain concentration. It's an ongoing practice, not a one-time fix.
And protecting our valuable time, guarding our creative gold, as you called it.
Exactly. Your manifesto can state, I will fiercely protect my most valuable time and creative energy, saying no to commitments that dilute my impact. This is about prioritizing what truly matters.
We've also touched on integrating deep work in different scenarios, like the hybrid approach and overcoming resistance.
Right. Your manifesto can be a flexible guide. For example, I will adapt my deep work strategies to suit different work environments and overcome any internal or external resistance. It's about being adaptable yet unwavering in principle.
And as we navigated the modern workplace and tailored approaches for different roles, we saw that deep work isn't one size fits all.
Precisely. Your manifesto isn't rigid. It's a framework. It can include, I will continuously refine my deep work approach based on my role, responsibilities, and evolving needs. It's a living document.
We've been talking about the long game, sustaining habits for lifelong productivity, and then diving into advanced strategies like time blocking and theme days.
All of these advanced techniques become part of your manifesto's toolkit for sustained effort. You can pledge, I will employ advanced strategies like time blocking and theme days to optimize my deep work and ensure long-term productivity gains. This shows a commitment to continuous improvement.
And we explored the incredible ripple effect, how deep work transforms not just our professional lives, but everything.
This is the ultimate payoff. Your manifesto should reflect this holistic view. A statement like, my commitment to deep work extends beyond my career, fostering greater creativity, fulfillment, and purpose in all aspects of my life.
So, to create our deep work manifesto, we're essentially distilling the essence of each episode into actionable commitments. It's our personal vow to ourselves to prioritize focus, value our time, and do our most important work consistently.
That's exactly it, Lisa. It's your personal declaration of how you will operate in the world to achieve sustained, undistracted productivity and unlock your highest potential. Don't overthink it. Write down the key principles that resonate most with you from our journey. What are your non-negotiables? What are the core habits you will cultivate?
It's about taking everything we've learned and making it our own. It's the integration, the thriving.
Indeed. Remember, this isn't just about getting more done. It's about doing the right things, the most important things with focused intent and deep satisfaction. This journey has equipped you with the knowledge and the strategies. Now it's time to make that commitment tangible with your own deep work manifesto.
This has been an incredible series. Alex, thank you for sharing your expertise and guiding us all.
And thank you, Lisa, for your insightful questions and for helping crystallize these concepts for our listeners. It's been a pleasure.
To all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey. We encourage you to take this final step, write your manifesto, and start living it today.
Thank you for listening to the series.